Today has been a bit of a slower news day for some of my favorite teams, so what I wanted to do was go out there and combine two conversations about two different prospects. Yeah, I guess prospects is the right word to say here, in regards to the Montreal Canadiens and the Vancouver Canucks. Now, if you've been around here long enough, you kind of know that because these stories are together, we're not going to go into the entire 8-minute diatribe just talking about one dude and his impact. So we're going to talk about two guys here in this video, starting out with the chronological story from earlier this morning. Take a look at this. The Montreal Canadiens tweeted this out while I was fast asleep. The Canadiens have loaned forward Oliver Kapanen to Timrå IK in the SHL and have recalled forward Lucas Condotta from the Laval Rocket. In addition, forward Jakob Perreault has also been assigned to the Rocket. So, Oliver Kapanen, eh? That was it. That was his NHL stint for 2024-2025 to start out the year. Admittedly, his preseason was a bit better than his regular season play. Kapanen only had 2 points in 12 games, suiting up with the Montreal Canadiens, which isn't great. But when you acknowledge that there was a significant impact that he did have on the team, especially on that line with Emil Heineman and Alex Barré-Boulet in the preseason, it was good to see him get that chance to start out the year with Montreal. He earned it, after all. 21 years old, 6'1", 183 right-handed center, a guy who is so brand new in the North American scene that just seeing him get lent back over to Timrå in the SHL isn't the end of the world. I think a lot of Canadiens fans are going to believe in this sort of a move for this kind of a player. I don't want to necessarily say that from the way we had seen Kapanen play in these 12 games, that he is fully ready to take on NHL responsibility in a top 9 or even a top 6 kind of role either. Not a knock against him, of course, he was good enough to force himself onto the team, but was he good enough to stay there? Not really too sure, but there still is a lot of progress to be had here, and it's better for his development as well to be playing top-line minutes in Sweden, where he'll be playing off against lower competition and honing his skills a lot more. And, I mean, come on, think about it. Who in their right minds thought that Oliver Kapanen, of all people, would be making the Canadiens in 24-25? I get it, last season he had a good year in the Liga. 34 points, 51 games played. But nobody's looking at that point production and saying, yeah, that guy's an NHL player next year. That guy is going to come over to the National Hockey League and he's going to force himself onto the team. Nobody. It would have been a crazy idea to even suggest at the end of last season, hey, that Oliver Kapanen guy, do you think he can make the Habs? Nobody was saying that. So the fact that he showed up to camp, he looked better than expected, and he was better than some of the other Canadiens forwards that already existed in the organization, it was a really big deal. So I gotta give props to Oliver Kapanen for actually making the team in the first place and proving that he belonged for a sample of more than like 3 or 4 games. The fact that he played 12, I think, firstly is a testament to the Canadiens and their injuries, second is a testament to the Canadiens and how poorly some of them have been playing, but it's also a testament to Oliver Kapanen putting in the work and staying with the team. Now, where does he go from here? Well, we had seen comments made by guys like Olli Jokinen, for example, talking about how for Oliver Kapanen, this is a guy who could steal a spot for the Habs, and if he doesn't, then we'll play him like crazy here in Timrå because he's that darn good. Well, Olli, you got your guy back. This is going to be great, I think, long-term, because for Kapanen, if he can round himself out as a center, just kind of become a little bit more reliable and have more of an impact at both ends of the ice, really capitalize on the speed and the smarts that he's got, then who knows where his ceiling lies at the NHL level, because thinking about the Canadiens, if they're already kind of volatile at center, they've got Nick Suzuki, they've got a bunch of other dudes. Kirby Dach, Newhook, not really too sure where these guys are going to go long-term at the center spot, and then you have guys that might be able to do it, like Slavkovsky and Demidov, but really, if you wanted to go for a guy who's already a center and who can get better, you've got Kapanen right there. And next year and beyond, this will be the time for us to really see him do that at the NHL level. But aside from prospects in Sweden, I wanted to talk about a prospect that came from Sweden, switching gears over here to the Vancouver conversation. I wanted to talk about Jonatan Lekkerimäki because it's been a pretty big conversation for Canucks fans throughout the course of the season as to whether or not Lekkerimäki would even get an opportunity to play with the Vancouver Canucks. Not because he's not talented, he's very talented, but it's just the Canucks have so many forwards that are already in the system and that have been capable of playing for spots that really, if you wanted to map it out, at this point in time, it seems like the Canucks only really have maybe 1, 2 at the most roster spots for forwards that are available to be shifted around. Pettersson, Miller, Besser are all guaranteed. So is Sherwood, so is Bluger, Suter, so is DeBrusk, Heinen, and you've got Hoglander, Sherwood. That's 10 guys right there. The 2 spots that I think are consistently up for grabs, you could debate the Daniel Sprong spot and then the other spot for the other guy, whether that's Niels Åman, Arshdeep Bains, or Aatu Räty. You also have Dakota Joshua, who is going to come back soon, maybe as soon as tomorrow, and we're going to see him potentially suit up in either the Sprong spot or the Bains-Räty spot. So with that, the audition spots for Abbotsford guys gets reduced to 1. I mean, not to say that Arshdeep Bains or Räty are going to be consistent every single day NHL players, but Daniel Sprong has the opportunity to maybe force himself to doing that. Lekkerimaki, on the other hand, is the wild card here. We had already made a video talking about how he is that wild card, but heading into the next few weeks here, we'll start to take a look a little bit more as things come together. The reason I say that is because Lekkerimaki right now is at 6 points in 6 games played, 4 goals, 2 assists, and if you take a look at the shots, dude, the guy has been shooting like crazy. The worst game he has had this season, in terms of shots, was the opening game against the San Diego Gulls on October 25th, where he had 3 shots. Lekkerimaki has had 3 shots, 5 shots, 6 shots, 8 shots, 6 shots, and 6 shots in games against San Diego and Tucson. He has scored a bunch of goals and has been a nightmare for AHL goalies. Now, we have ourselves an article published on Canucks Army from David Quadrelli earlier yesterday, talking about whether or not the Canucks should call up Jonathan Lekkerimaki to the NHL. The article goes out there and cites a recent interview by Darren Dreger on Sekeres and Price, wherein Dreg says that it's a matter of when, not if, the Vancouver Canucks will recall the young sharpshooter. Quads then writes this, that it makes sense. After all, the Canucks' top prospect is currently averaging over 5 shots per game at the AHL level, a phenomenal output that suggests he could be ready for the next level of competition. Through 6 AHL games, Lekkerimaki has 4 goals and 2 assists, good for a point-per-game output to begin his first full season in NA. There's no question that if those numbers keep up, the Canucks will bring him to the NHL club this season. Quads then writes about the likelihood as to whether or not that happens soon. Is it actually a possibility in the short-term future? And how does Dakota Joshua end up influencing that idea? So at the end of the article, it just says that there's no real way of knowing when Lekkerimaki is going to get his chance, but as long as he's able to continue doing his thing and producing at a pretty significant rate, there's going to be an opportunity at some point. We just got to wait and see. At some point, the Canucks are going to try to use Lekkerimaki in a similar fashion to how they used Arshdeep Bains in the wing. Honestly, I'd say that if Bains was getting top 6 looks for the Vancouver Canucks this season, Lekkerimaki should also be given those opportunities too. It's not like Aatu Räty, who is a center, so you kind of have to play him somewhere in the bottom 6. Lekkerimaki's got a 6 shots, so having him with Elias Pettersson could be interesting if Petey decides to take a little bit of a backseat role in terms of his goal scoring and tries to focus more on playmaking like he did when he was playing with Besser and Kuzmenko. That Swedish connection, baby. Who knows if it's back in store? So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Montreal Canadiens prospect Oliver Kapanen and his return back into the Timrå system in the SHL. What are your expectations of him? How do you think he's going to fare in Sweden? Do you think he's got more to prove, or do you think this is just more of a refinement kind of stint? This is him defining more of his skills and capitalizing on that in a greater capacity compared to what he's able to do in Montreal. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Lekkerimaki? If you're a Canucks fan, how far do you think he's going to go into the season before getting called up? And how many points do you think he's able to get in, let's just say he plays 5 Canucks games this season, Vancouver Canucks games? If Lekkerimaki is given a top 6 role with EP40, how many points do you think he's able to get? Let me know your thoughts about that, as well as the longer-term projections of these players. Where do you see them going? Where do you see them ending off the season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.